we're good.
Okay, scratch that.
Cut. Start over.
Take 2.
Hi everyone, welcome to Deadhouse. This is the end of May because I don't remember if there's 30 or 31 days in the month, but it's fine. And we are doing Night of the Living Dummy 2, the sequel. It was book number 31 in the original run of the series, published on May of 1995, so 2 years after the first Dummy book was published.
And the book before one of my personal favorite, The Barking Ghost.
Yes, it is the book right before The Barking Ghost. However, it's going to be a little longer before we actually get to that book.
Absolutely, but it warmed my cold heart seeing that intro at the end of the book. I'm like, it's coming up!
And you're soon going to find out if it's still your favorite.
Yes. Couple months down the road, but yes.
Yes.
Yep.
We are introduced right away to a brand new family.
We are.
So we have no idea how the original girls got rid of the dummy or what happened, but they did. They got rid of Slappy. He ended up back at a pawn shop.
He did.
And it was just so interesting to see this brand new family. It is with 3 siblings. No surprise, 12, 14, and 10.
Imagine
the
that.
youngest being 10, the oldest being 14. It is told from the perspective of the middle child, Amy, and she is the narrator. The opening line is my favorite.
Oh, do you want to go ahead then? I didn't know.
I just love it because it opens with, "My name is Amy Kramer, and every Thursday night I feel a little dumb." It's such a strange way to start, but like, it's good. It strikes you.
And she feels that way because they have a family sharing night. Her sister is such a great artist. She always shares her paintings. And her brother always shares something
that's kind of jokey. He's always making jokes, pulling pranks, doing things to count as family sharing.
Yeah. So he contributes. She goes in with like nothing that she can think of at the time.
Yeah, so half the time she makes up stories.
Yeah. So...
And by that I mean like actual stories, like she story tells.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of like think of it like a cafe setting and somebody's up there with a mic telling stories or ramblings. That's kind of what she does. And by the sounds of it, she does a pretty decent idea because they do comment on her imagination from time to time.
Yeah, and her dad says like she tells some pretty compelling stories.
Yeah, so maybe she has a future of writing.
But she doesn't know that her dad's really telling the truth. Her dad sort of thinks everybody is fantastic at everything they do. So she's not sure if that's just a parent being supportive or if she's actually any good at it. She's never had any outside feedback.
Right.
Whereas her brother is, as we see, very popular with his friends, so she figures he must be funny. And her older sister has won awards for her paintings, so she knows she's good.
Right. So at the first family sharing night that this book starts on, after everybody's contributed and it's Sarah's turn, Sarah says she has a painting in the room and everybody has to come look at it. And when they go down to her room and have a look at the painting, it has a new addition.
Yeah.
A big smiley face that her brother Jed put on it, which sends the family into chaos because she is completely upset and her parents are not happy that Jed acted out and is punishing him and saying that you don't understand how important this is, that you've intentionally wrecked something that your sister created, even though she's trying to fix it, it's not.
Earlier in the night, he sort of wrecked something in that, in addition to telling stories, Amy's also a budding ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And she has a really old dummy that they've gotten secondhand. And by old, I mean like it's sun bleached, there's paint chips, most of it's worn off around the eyes.
And it has a unique characteristic.
Yeah, it's so old, the wiring in it isn't right anymore for moving the mouth. It's one where the eyes are painted on, the eyes don't move. Yeah. So it would have been older than Slappy, actually, because Slappy still had the movable eyes.
But his head also falls off.
Yeah, the wiring is so old that his head falls off consistently. And Jed likes to take the opportunity to play with the head, like juggle it, that sort of thing. Tonight when it falls off unexpectedly, it mostly just startles the cat.
Yeah.
But tonight, instead of, you know, pulling a prank with Dennis, he's decided he's going to pull this painting trick, and
with Sarah.
Does not go over well.
Nope. So, he gets grounded.
Oh,
for
yes.
his artistic talents. The next day, after work, the kid's father, who also works where there is also a pawn shop in the general area. I'm not sure if it's right next to it like the previous book, but it's close. And he sees a dummy in the window.
Yeah, so he decides he's going to pick it up as a surprise because Amy keeps begging him for a new dummy because Dennis keeps falling apart.
Yeah, and she can't practice properly with his head continuously falling on the floor. And this puppet is Slappy. He's already named.
Yeah, the store owner told him his name, and he seemed happy to get rid of it. Gee, I wonder why.
No idea.
Again, we get our first jump scare.
Yep.
Where she puts her hand up inside the dummy to use it, and oh my god, it's his brain! Ew!
His brain ends up being a moldy PB&J sandwich.
Yes. And it has worms in it and everything.
Yeah,
it's gross.
It's been there a long time. So, her father inspects the dummy afterwards and determines what it is.
Spray sanitizer in it. And
yeah, they pretty much just dip this thing in like Clorox and then take it out and make sure everything is clean and non-moldy, maggoty. And so while they're searching the dummy, Amy finds a little slip of paper.
Yeah, in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
While they're like trying to clean him up and inspect his outfit and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And she says, oh, this is weird, and reads it out because she's there with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's strange. I don't know what these words are supposed to mean. She tucks it back in his pocket.
What harm could coming from reading words off a note of paper that came from a dummy's pocket?
And then, after she does that, as her dad comes over to like put the disinfectant inside his head, like give it the little spray, Slappy makes a little protest.
Mm-hmm.
He does his namesake once more.
Yep.
And of course, the dad is instantly upset and is like, he thinks she did it to play a joke, and it was like, you know, that was hard. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And she apologizes, but she was like, oh, Dad must have accidentally
triggered something.
Yeah, because where they had been like pulling on the strings a lot, she figured, oh, he must have accidentally been pulled too hard, and when he let go, the hand went. And she figures, well, I'm not going to embarrass him and point out his own mistake. I'll just apologize, and it's fine.
We'll move forward. He did buy her a dummy. During the next family sharing night, so it's about a week or so has passed, she's there with Slappy and doing a routine, and Slappy goes off script. And insults,
as he's wont to do.
Yeah, and insults both parents, which they think it's Amy making the comments, but Amy knows that she wouldn't say anything like that and gets upset.
And this was something really, really relatable about Amy, because as she's seeing things slowly happen with the dummy, she realizes he can't do this. He's an inanimate object.
Yeah, so she has some common sense.
She's not afraid of ventriloquist dummies the way Chris was in the first one a little bit, because she's seen them before. This isn't something new to her that she's just picked up for the first time.
Right.
This is something she's seasoned at. So she's not afraid of the dummies. She knows they're not real. She has none of those other reservations. So when the dummy clearly has done something on his own, and she can't believe what's happened, she's so shocked. She's like, did I do it and not realize I did it? Like, is something happening to me?
Yeah.
And she starts to wonder slowly throughout if she's going crazy or not. Tries to convince herself she's not going crazy.
It's very much a self-aware moment.
Yeah, and it's really nicely done, the way she keeps trying to play off things she thinks she's seeing. You know, as we go through this, you'll see she keeps saying after little things that happen, oh, it must be my overactive imagination, or...
So, like, she's old enough to have a grasp on reality and fiction, which is cool. Amy knows that she is not doing well in math and science.
Right, and her sister has been accepted into an art competition, and so she's really excited and bragging.
Yep.
And Amy's jealous, but you know, she thinks to herself, well, she's got a right to be proud that she's going to be in this competition, and of course she's got good grades, and she kind of wishes she had better grades. So she practices, starts practicing more with Slappy, and before we know it, it's family sharing night again.
Seems like a big event in this book.
Yeah, it's a huge event. Everything happens on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because it all happens centered around this family sharing night they have. So Thursday night, when they're getting ready for a family sharing night, and you know, Sarah's talking excitedly about this competition she's going to be in again over supper. After supper, as they're clearing up, Amy turns around and sees a dummy crawling towards the living room across the floor, and she's so frightened. Jed jumps out of the living room, and all of a sudden, well, no, I should say Dennis jumps out of the living room, but it's actually Jed.
Yep.
And he had taken Dennis's old head and put it on his head and like pulled up his turtleneck over his head, the cot, so it looked like the dummy was moving. And she was so frightened she dropped Slappy. Sarah finds it so amusing. She says, "You nearly dropped your teeth."
I've never heard that saying in my life.
It's your jaw dropped is the saying, right?
Yeah.
I've never heard it expressed as "you nearly dropped your teeth" before. I'm wondering if that's something colloquial to like whatever area that Arlstein is from.
Yeah.
If like that's a saying he grew up with, I would be interested to know, because I have never ever heard the saying "you nearly dropped your teeth" before, and that really struck me.
We knew what it meant. It's just...
It took me a second to think about it though, because she was like, "You nearly dropped your teeth," and I was like, oh, she means dropped her jaw. What? What kind of saying is this? But yeah, if you've heard that saying before, we would love to know, because I've never heard that expression.
No. Neither have I, no.
The family gets together for sharing it. We actually see the mom do family sharing, which is strange. We know the whole family does it, but I don't know, it makes a point of talking about how the mom tells a funny story about a larger woman who will only try on small sizes. Amy does make a point of saying after she was really surprised her mom would tell a story like that, since her mom is on the larger side and is very sensitive about her weight, which is fine, except, I don't know, it's not good to see. It also is not realistic of anybody who's ever been a woman in a clothing store. Because clothes are a million different sizes. Literally the size on the tag means practically nothing.
Right, because you can be one size in one store, and you can take that exact same size and try on different cuts in that same store, or go to a different store and try on the exact same size, and it will not fit the same.
No, not at all.
No.
Like, it's depending on the brand of clothing, the cut of clothing, the material the clothing is made out of. It all fits differently, and the size literally does not mean anything, and it is frustrating, and it is embarrassing to have to ask for help, and it's not a situation that most people enjoy. And I feel like this story is told by someone who maybe has never had to experience that.
Like, I've legit picked up 2 pairs of capris at one store that I always shop at. The exact same cut, size, style, only one was a solid print and one was a stripe or a polka dot print. And they were different sizes. When you held them up, there was like a 1-inch material all the way down on each side.
And like, I'm gonna tell you right now, with bottoms, like pants, shorts, all that stuff, I have taken everything from a size 8 to a size 14. How do I know what size I'm supposed to use? Like, you don't know until you actually try it on. And it's ridiculous.
And then they throw in stuff for women don't have pockets or usable pockets. Like, men's got it knocked.
That's a whole other rant, because seriously, baby clothes has pockets. What are babies doing with pockets? This is my thing. My kingdom for pocket, I am telling you.
It's where they put their Cheerios.
Whenever I see pockets in women's clothes, I'm so excited. And that's the first thing I tell anybody. If somebody says they like something, I'm like, thanks, it has pockets. Just so that they know.
Yeah.
Like.
But anyway, she's selling a women's clothing.
Side rant about pockets.
And with a women's clothing. And the woman buys everything that she's tried on that's too small, that she's ripped, and she says it's for her sister anyway. So is this a legitimate, she's trying it on to make sure that it's tight on her so it would fit her sister, and that's how she shops for her sister? Or
it would be.
Or is this her trying to compensate and deflect everything?
But I mean, nobody would do that. You would.
No.
Because it would be a waste of your time and money to do that. And it's enough of a process anyway that, like, most people don't like to have to try on clothes in stores.
Right. But, like, this isn't clear why this woman is going through this.
Yeah, it's a story in poor taste that doesn't make any sense.
Yep. So, the father's sharing is usually cooking.
Usually.
Usually.
So his is usually done by supper time, I guess.
Yeah.
He loves to cook his Chinese food, his brand new wok.
Yeah.
And it's Amy's turn, and Slappy speaks again.
Mm.
And, like, really insults the family.
In Slappy fashion.
Yes, he mocks her parents, like, hard. And she gets in so much trouble. She gets frightened and, like, throws him across the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But the parents are none too impressed. And she is now very grounded. Very grounded.
So it's 2 to 3 kids grounded.
Yep. And then her friend, I believe Margot, calls.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Margot tells her that her dad would like her to perform at a kid's birthday party that's coming up.
Which is really cool. Very similar to the first book, Night of the Living Dummy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a direct parallel to that, which is cool. So she's really excited and she wants to practice more and make sure that she does a good job.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Jed is constantly giving her a hard time because he's upset that she didn't stick up for him with the painting thing, especially now that she's played this other joke.
Yeah.
He acts kind of creepy, man, I gotta say. Like,
he does.
Some of the stuff he says is weird.
He might be feeling out of place growing up with 2 sisters and not being the artistic smart one and not being the one that's good at performing with a dummy. So he might be just trying to kind of find his own way.
Yeah, but he definitely comes off as slightly creepy.
The next day the report cards are out.
Yeah, by a coincidence.
Yep.
It's report card time.
Dun dun. Sarah is beside herself with her high grades and she's dancing around and singing and showing everybody and really eating up all of the positive attention for all of her hard work.
And she also is nominated or just won an art competition, got a blue ribbon or something? Yeah, for her painting.
Yeah. So Amy's completely jealous because she didn't do well in math and science.
And she knows her report card's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm. She comes out and tells her parents and she does get grounded for her grades. And after she was talking to her friend on the phone...
And she doesn't just get grounded for her grades. They also offer to, like, you know, help her with her work, help her get more organized, get tutors, stuff like that.
But she also has a science project that's overdue and not turned in. So when she's talking to her friend on the phone when she shouldn't be, her friend said, you know, I can't believe you don't have that passed in yet. So, Now, I don't feel too bad for Amy getting the grades that she did in math and science. She doesn't explain too much of why she got her math mark, but she knew full well going into the grades being released that she did not have her science project submitted because it wasn't completed. So it's within her control. Like, if she was having problems with it, she should have spoke to somebody, but she knew that grade would be incorporated into the grades released on the report card.
That being said, the teacher leaves this remark about, oh, she should try harder.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an offhand, not helpful to the parents remark to make. I don't think that was a good remark for the teacher to leave. That being said, because we don't know why she's having trouble with math. She might just legit be having trouble with math. It might be a topic she finds hard.
And that's...
We know she put off handing in the science project, and took her sweet time about it and was playing with the dummy instead. So that one you feel less bad about, but kids will do that from time to time with science or when they have something else they want to do.
Right, but if she knew she'd get in trouble for her grades and she knew this wasn't passed in yet, she should have talked to her teacher. She should have either tried to make more of an effort to get it in on time or talked to her teacher for an extension or did something. And maybe that's what the teacher meant by that snide comment, that she could try harder.
That she knew, but it would have been better worded had she said something like, I know she can be a really good student, so I would like to see more from her, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, instead of just like, oh, she should try harder, she's not applying herself.
Or grade reflects missing work or something.
Yeah, something to tell the parents that maybe she's not completing assignments because maybe they don't know that.
And that mark is not a direct reflection of how she's actually comprehending the work. Us being nitpicky, I think.
Oh, that's definitely us being nitpicky, but...
Yeah. So, she did get... Is she continuously grounded now? Does she get more grounded, or is she just still grounded?
She doesn't get more grounded, but she is still grounded.
Okay.
And her parents do come and talk to her about her work.
Hmm.
And, like I said, they offer to help her get more organized and to be more active in her homework with her to sort of help get her on track. So you do see the parents be really good here in terms of that.
And on Saturday, after the report cards did come out, she did spend the majority of the day working on typing up the project and doing a nice cover. And she
putting in an extra.
Yeah. So she realized that her markers were dried up, so she went into Sarah's room to borrow Sarah's markers.
Yes. And... of course, Jed is underfoot again, telling her she reeks and stuff like that. So
you shouldn't be going into Sarah's room.
Because he's teasing her and saying she reeks and says, ooh, you can't go into Sarah's room, that's off limits. Yeah. She goes, I'm just going to get some, like it's none of your business. Yeah. I'm just going in real quick. I won't be long. Go on your own beeswax.
Right. But later that day, something happened or was discovered in Sarah's room. And Jed quickly pointed the finger that it was not him, and he's seen Amy going in.
Yes. So they go to the room, and they find paint has been overturned everywhere. Like, pots of it are just all over the floor, spilled, and it's a rug. And it's been spilled for a little bit, so...
It's ruined.
It's ruined. It's absolutely soaked up and ruined. Yeah. And, of course, the parents are horrified and devastated. Like, this is way worse than what Jed did.
Yeah, and Amy was adamant that she didn't do it. She went and got the markers from her room that she was using and said, this is why I came in.
Jed said she wouldn't tell me why she was going to Sarah's room because they blamed it on him first because he'd already been in there sabotaging.
Yeah, so she tried to plead her case saying, this is why I came in. I didn't touch any paints. And then the parents still didn't believe her because she was witnessed going in.
Yeah, and she was the only other person there all afternoon besides Jed and her mom.
Yeah. So she runs, she runs out of the room and into her room, completely devastated. And then she sees Slappy's shoes.
Yeah, she's crying and upset, and then she sees his shoes.
Which has paint on them.
In 3 distinct colors, like the pots that were tipped.
So this makes her very confused.
And she's like, he couldn't have done it, could he? And then she's like, well, he must have. Yeah. And that's when she starts arguing it. So she tried to argue that it was Slappy, and of course her parents don't believe it, and they want her to confess. Yeah. She won't confess, so they leave her grounded. And they let her out in time to perform for the birthday. Yep. She's been practicing really hard leading up to this party, especially since she's got nothing else to do now. She's grounded.
Yep. The gig did not go well.
No, of course not. So we get introduced to this little girl named Alicia.
Yeah. And she's the birthday girl, and she wants to come and talk to the dummy before Amy performs with Slappy. And everything's going fine until she tries to shake his hand. And then Slappy won't let go. And at first the little girl, didn't think too much of it, and then she started to panic.
And she was like, oh, he must really like me. And then Amy continues to try to pull that off as the little girl's panicking. Yeah. And the mother is starting to breathe down Amy's neck going, what's going on, fix this.
Yeah.
And Amy's like, oh, he must really like you must be right, and is trying to get her to stop crying and get her hand out, but she can't get her hand out because there are no controls for the hand.
No, there's no reason for that hand to clench. So the birthday girl gets very upset, and other kids get very upset watching what's happening.
Yeah, and they start screaming and being frightened because they don't understand it. The little girl is in an absolute state. The mother is panicking and cannot get the girl's hand out of it. So then she starts yelling at Amy and saying, like, you know, why are you doing this? Let go of her. Until finally her hand comes free. But when it does, it's swollen, like it's clearly not well. And she goes to Margot's father and complains and talks about suing the party house and is in an uproar blaming Amy for what happened and saying she did it on purpose.
And so he asks Amy to leave.
Yes. Now, when he asks her to leave, she takes it so badly. She starts to run away.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we have another weather change. And I made note of this. So it starts raining basically as she's upset. And as it's raining and she sees the water running down a sewer drain nearby, she says, I want it to flow away with it. Like, it's a really heartbreaking, sad moment because you knew she had no control over this. And it feels like the world's against her at this point. Yeah. So she goes to the bus, gets on a bus, and then runs the rest of the way home rather than waiting for the time when her parents were going to pick her up. And she comes home with like this wet, matted hair and like her clothes are all soaked. And
and she just goes up to her room. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. She won't tell them how the party went.
No, eventually her mom does get her to open up.
Yeah. When she gets to her room, she does put Slappy in the closet because...
Yeah, and she did it herself.
Yeah, dummies in closets worked so well in the past.
And her, that's always been the solution, right? To lock it in the closet.
Right.
That, it never comes out again.
No.
Anyway, she shuts him in the closet, and she eventually tells her mom what happened. And her mom says, but you know that wasn't your fault, right? Like, her hand must have gotten caught somehow in the wood. Like, she's like, you couldn't have helped that. She was like, yeah, I guess it must have been. And she thinks her imagination is playing tricks on her. And then Margot calls, and it makes her feel a little better again because, you know, she tells her, Dad doesn't blame you for it. He doesn't think it was your fault. He thinks it was just an accident.
Yeah. And she does get booked for, or Margot's father does want to book her for another party.
But with slightly older kids that would maybe understand the dummy better.
Yeah. But she wants none of it. She's not.
She's like, I'm out of the ventriloquist game now.
This is traumatizing. I am done. That night... No, is it not that night? Yep, that night.
Yeah, it is that night. She wakes up to Sarah screaming.
Right. So something else has happened in Sarah's room. And that something is that Amy's name is painted all over her walls in red paint.
Oh, yeah. Like
this is straight out of The Shining.
I know, right? That was my thought, too. And it's just like red painted everywhere. Amy, 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 Amy.
Yeah.
All work and no play. Make Amy a dull girl.
Red rum. So that's immediately when I went out to The Shining.
Yeah.
So of course they all think Amy did it. Who else would be writing their name or Amy's name all over the walls? So Amy is grounded again.
And she is so upset. And
she didn't do it.
The night before she thought she heard like a click sound.
Yeah.
From the closet door. And, you know, again, she's still in denial about the fact that Slappy's alive. So she figures this can't be happening. But now she's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Slappy. It had to be Slappy. Right. So she runs to a room and she's like, come with me, follow me. I'm going to prove it's him.
And he's in the closet.
Holding the paintbrush.
Right.
And it was dry, so it had to be the night before.
Yeah.
When everyone was asleep.
So he was caught red-handed, pretty much. But nobody believes that Slappy did it because Slappy is an inanimate object.
Exactly caught red-handed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, did you really think we would believe that by putting the paintbrush in his hand, we would think he did it? Come on.
Right.
So now she shakes him and shakes him because, you know, she's in super extra trouble with her parents. And they're like, just admit you did this. And they start talking about the cost of having to, like, redo the walls.
On top of already having the carpet redone.
And on top of her already blaming a couple things now on Slappy in the past. The other paint incident in the room, as well as him yelling and insulting the parents. And they're starting to think that maybe she has serious issues.
Right, they're like talking psychiatrist.
They are talking about a psychiatrist. And she shakes him to, like, you know, try to get him to confess. And she says it sees his smile get a little wider, but he doesn't say anything yet.
No.
She's like, I'm gonna find out it's him and prove it. So she's gonna catch him in the act, and she tries to stay awake, but accidentally falls asleep. Where she's awoken by Jed, oddly enough, who's just sleepwalking. And this is random. It has no point to the rest of the story. He's just sleepwalking, finds himself in her room and was like, you told me to come in here.
She's like, no, I was solid asleep. You woke me up.
But he says, no, that can't be it. And he was like, oh, I must have dreamt it. And goes back to bed. So now that she's tentatively awake, after he goes back to bed, she feels herself getting dozy, but she never quite goes back to sleep, and that's when she hears a click. Now this time I don't understand hearing the click. The first time I get, because he was just shut in the closet, but this time it says she's locked the door.
Yeah. Which, closet doors tend not to have locks on them.
And if they do, it's like it's a one-sided.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to get it from the other end.
No, no.
So she hears a click as if the door is opening. And she describes seeing him walk across the floor and how he, like, bobs because he's got no bones in his legs, as if he's self-animating, and the way he's, like, kind of half dragging himself. It's a really weird, really good description.
It is, yeah. Very well done. At this point, Slappy makes his way to Amy's room once again.
Or to Sarah's room.
Sarah's room, once again.
And he knew this was going to happen. And Sarah's in the middle of painting a mural. I think maybe to save on the paint charges for redoing the bedroom.
Right.
And he's going to sabotage it. So he dips his paintbrush this time in some blue paint. And right as he's going to go over and do it, she tackles him. And grabs the paintbrush out of his hand. So she pulls him backwards. And grabs him, and then grabs the brush, and he kicks back at her and, like, pushes himself back forward, and they struggle. And she gets him again, like, around the neck, and then Sarah wakes up. And the second she clicks on the light, he goes limp, so it looks like he's just laying over her arm.
Right. So,
Sarah says, Mom, Dad, come look what Amy's done again.
Yes.
And the parents come and they, you know, run out of the bedroom, and they just see Amy sitting there with the dummy slumped over, holding a paintbrush. And she's like, Slappy tried to do it again.
So
I caught him.
She kind of looks like she's got him in, like, a bear hug with one arm, and then the other hand is on his hand with the paintbrush. So it looks
she's holding the paintbrush like this, and he's slumped over her like this, and his head's dangling down here. And
so it kind of makes it look like she is painting the picture with Slappy.
And because she has done this, and it looks very obviously like she's carried the dummy into the room, her parents, and she's so adamant that she really didn't do it, they're like, no, you have to confess. We're not going to believe you. Like, his dad puts his foot down. We're 100% not even going to entertain anything this time. You have to put the dummy in the closet, which she wants to do anyway, so that's
absolutely,
fine.
No
and
protest.
She locks it up, no protest, and she's not going to do anything else with it. Margot keeps trying to bug her to do shows, and she's like, no, this is it now. And she doesn't want to tell Margot what happened because it's too weird. And she doesn't want everybody at school to whisper about her, especially now because the next day before school, she heard her mom make a phone call, which was an appointment to a psychiatrist.
And around this time, too, Slappy does tell Amy that she is his slave.
Yes, so this is where that happens. When they're alone together in the room after the struggle, and she's trying to figure out what to do about Slappy, he finally confesses to her and says, listen, if you don't spend all of your time paying attention to me and doing what I want and making us a star, he's like, you know, devoting your life to me, then I am going to keep destroying things. And she's like, well, what's the big deal if you paint up her room again? You've done that however many times. Like, you know, it's old news. I don't care. And the dummy says, no, I will start destroying other things around the house. I'll start coming after your family. You have to do what I say, or this is going to get worse. And he does say, or else. And she's like, what kind of else? And he was like I'll hurt everyone.
Oh, yeah. I have no self-control.
Amy obviously doesn't agree to be his slave.
Oh, no.
No matter how much he insists he's going to hurt them, she won't agree to it. So she locks him in the closet. They have a bit of a fight first, actually, and he knocks her out. Like, momentarily. And they struggle because she's not going to let him back out to do any more damage. And she traps him in the closet and locks the door, and he bangs and bangs and bangs on the closet until he breaks the lock and gets out. And it's at that point she slams her bedroom door shut and runs to her sister. And is like, you have to come help me with him. He's in the room. He's actually alive. Please, you've got to believe me. And that's when Sarah stops what she's doing with the mural and completely breaks down and says, yes, I know, I saw the whole thing.
They have like a very touching heart-to-heart here.
It's a very, very good heart-to-heart where you really see that one sister had one perception of how things were and the other had another, and they were both a little jealous of each other. And it was very much a sibling rivalry thing that got solved, and I feel like got solved better than in the other book. In the other book, the sibling rivalry never really resolved itself.
It's just put aside.
Yeah, they work together with one dummy, and then you never see a full resolution, I think because Slappy's still alive. And I think that showed in the first book, Lindy, and how willing she was to go along with what Slappy was doing. Whereas in this one, Amy is seen resisting him right from the beginning. And so the heart-to-heart here is really good, and it's a good payoff.
And, like, is that at this point where Sarah tells Amy that she's jealous of Amy?
And how easy and open she is with people and getting friends, and how she's able to perform, and Sarah doesn't have that confidence.
And she also confesses that she's seen Slappy in her room the other night with the paintbrush and seen Amy come in and tackle him. And she was like, but I was too frightened and I didn't know what to do. And Amy was like, just admit you also wanted to see me get in trouble a little bit. And Sarah was like, yeah, that too. And they have a super good heart-to-heart where they just like laugh and like hold each other, and it was really touching and really good. So they make a plan afterwards to get rid of Slappy.
And so they go back to the room, and I'm not sure why he's back in the closet. Nothing else has been moved, but
they start to hog tie him and like twist his arms and legs, and
they have a big fight with him and grab him. They twist up his arms and legs, and so while she's standing in the doorway, Sarah, it blocks his exit because he tries to run
and knocks
out of the
clean
room and rocks clean into it. And they both get kind of frightened for a second, but Amy uses that opportunity to grab his arms, so then Sarah can grab his legs. She twists his arms around and then ties them in a knot, while Sarah is tying his legs in a knot.
And that's how they carry him out of the room.
And he stops protesting all of a sudden, because initially he was still like bucking, but eventually he just stops. So they take him and take him outdoors, and they're not sure what to do other than outside, and they're trying to be quiet about their plans. He's got tissue stuffed in his mouth so he can't keep talking and screaming. It was really funny.
And they do decide to shove him down a drain.
Yeah, initially they're going to throw him in the trash, and they think about a bin, but then they see the drain, and they're like, no, that's perfect.
And they push him down the drain.
So they push him down one of the sewer drains outside.
But deja vu.
Yeah, just like in the last book, he's back at the kitchen table the
First
next
thing in the
morning. And dirty, and the mom was like, I thought you were leaving him in the closet now. Why is he out of the closet? And
better question, why is he out of the drain?
Yeah. She's like, you know, why is he dirty? Get him cleaned up and put him away. So she does, and has to go back to school. So now she's really trying to plot what she can do.
Yeah.
So the next night,
The trap is set.
yes, he unlocks the closet door. She hears the click, and I don't know why they make a point of saying unlocking at this point, because he's just broken the lock.
Yeah.
But anyway,
They might have replaced that too.
they hear the click of the door, and he goes out, and just like before, she follows him down the hall as he makes his way to Sarah's room.
Mm-hmm.
And as he makes his way to Sarah's room, and he's getting ready to sabotage things again, Amy's getting ready to tackle him when running past them comes Dennis. And he's like, stay back, I've got it.
Yeah. And he jumps on Slappy and takes his head and crashes it into
The iron bedpost.
Yeah. And it cracks open like an egg.
Yeah, and the description of it cracking wide open.
Love it.
This was amazing. I actually remembered this description vividly. Like the minute I saw it, the description of it just like flooded back to me, because I remembered that description so well from when I was a kid. The way it's like the back instantly splits and the rest of it slowly cracks down the middle until his grin is in half, it says. And this big worm crawls out of his head and into the wall and disappears, which is like, ew.
Yep.
Next level weirdness.
Yep.
And then Dennis bolts out of the room again.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, Sarah switches on the light, and out of the closet pops
the parents.
And they're like, oh my God, we believe you. We couldn't believe this happened.
Yeah.
So this was actually a really well-crafted plan, and
This
much
is
better
elaborate.
than Amy's set and wait.
Yeah.
This was, they got Jed in on it, the whole works.
Mm-hmm.
So the part you didn't see when it just said Amy went to school was that she had planned with her sister, and because her sister was in on it and had convinced the parents, this will fix what's wrong. We've made up.
Yeah.
Here's how we're gonna catch Slappy.
Yeah.
They say, you know, we'll get Jed to dress up as Dennis to frighten Slappy and take him off guard so we can capture him.
Yeah.
That's for their part of the plan.
And
They have the parents wait in the closet instead of in their bedroom, leaving the bedroom door shut at the end of the hall so that Slappy thinks they're tucked away in the room.
Yep.
Because they do say there is a nightlight in the hall. So he doesn't want to take any chances the parents are going to see him. So the bedroom door is shut. And they're waiting in the closet in the dark room for him to go into Sarah's room. So they see the entire struggle. Now they're suddenly shocked because they know for a fact Slappy was
what's going on.
And they're like, well, at least he's gone now. He's not terrorizing the family. They apologize for not believing her, and everything is back to normal, except they were like, man, Jed did such a good job. He was so brave.
Enter in R.L. Stine's cliffhanger.
Yes, this is the big cliffhanger ending, and I love it.
Me too. Yeah.
They go to the room for Jed, and Jed hasn't woken up.
No. He overslept his time.
He jumps up when he sees them in his room and goes, what time is it? Oh no, I forgot to dress up.
Yeah.
And then the whole family's like, then who stopped Slappy?
Dum dum dum. Love it. I really did enjoy this one.
I think I liked it better than the first one.
I think it's like right on par.
I think what I liked better about it was how believable Amy's struggle was with it. And how believable they were as a family, and the actions the family was trying to take to make this stop. Man, it had some really good scenes. It was just really well done. And I love that Dennis comes to save the day, and that he's not an evil dummy.
And he has his head.
Yeah, and I'm assuming what happened, because Dennis is suddenly back to life, I would assume, because they never mention the words again. So I'm assuming because Jed was always going in around her room, poking at things.
He might have read something.
Then he might have read the words in front of Dennis and brought Dennis to life. And because Dennis was not an evil dummy, he just bid his time until they talked about in front of him. Because in the last few scenes with Lock and Dummy in the closet, they stopped mentioning seeing Dennis with his head off by the side in a chair at the end of the room. They stopped mentioning his presence, and they stopped talking about his head and doing things with his missing head. And it's like she almost forgets she even has this other dummy. And so we do too for a little while.
Yeah.
And he was sort of biding his time until he hears the plan involving using him.
Mm.
And he, like, just comes in and actually saves the day.
To the rescue.
And it's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, then it leaves you to wonder whether or not he'll end up trying to make them as slaves. But I think he's a good dummy. I don't think he will. I think it would have caused more mischief.
If he
like
was.
the other dummy did, Mr.
Yeah.
Wood, if he was an evil one.
I don't have much complaints about this series so far.
No, it's very well done. And honestly, the fact that it's a new family did not disappoint me in any way.
No.
Because it actually made me really curious to find out, like, and got my imagination going about the final struggle the sisters must have had to get rid of Slappy, to get the sandwich stuck in his head and to get him back at a pawn shop.
Yeah.
And deactivated, and, like, it almost makes me want to tell that story myself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, fill in the blanks to how he gets back to a pawn shop and this new family. And
Yeah, and while it does follow some similar script ideas,
parallels, like
yeah.
at the kitchen table and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's still different.
Yeah.
I like it.
And it's still paralleled. Slappy was still very much used to parallel the jealousy of the two sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, big time.
Like creating the conflicts of, like, terrorizing Sarah as her own. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super good. Do you have a favorite scene?
I really like the ending. I really, really liked how that came together.
Yeah, and how they actually put together a plan.
Yeah.
And like I said, that description of cracking open the head. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely remembered reading that as a kid.
How about you?
Man, again, yeah, the ending, probably my most favorite. But I also like when Sarah's painting is first ruined, that first painting by Jed, and it says how she lets out this, like, deep guttural scream of rage, and, like, to have worked so hard on something, because I feel this as an artist, and have, like, tried to get something right, and then feel like you're on the right track with something, to put so much time and effort, and then just have it all go wrong. Like, when I've accidentally messed up my own stuff, I'm devastated, let alone to have seen somebody else, like, ruin it.
And she talks about how she has to darken that mountain to cover up the smiley face.
And then that throws off the shadows, and she has to change the whole picture.
To make it balance, yeah.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Oh, she gets embarrassed, Amy does. That I thought was a neat little moment, because she's like, was I embarrassed? Take 3 guesses.
Yeah. I
That
remember
was
that.
cute. And I always heard that one growing up is take 3 guesses, the first 2 don't count.
Yeah. Because you don't get sarcasm from a child. Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like this one.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We want to know what you guys think of this book.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know what your favorite scene was. We want to know if you find the dummy story believable. If you are so inclined, we would love to hear your theories about how Slappy got deactivated and the sandwich in his head in the first place. Like, give us a good solid theory on how that came about.
Or another theory of how Dennis came to life and saved the day.
How did Dennis get brought to life? When did that happen?
Absolutely. So they can find you on Twitter
As @aglittermacaroon with 1 T and 2 O's. And you are on Twitter as
Coffee with Jen with 1 N.
It's coffee_.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coffee _ Jen with 1 N.
And you can reach us both on Twitter for this book club with the hashtag GBC Ghost Next Door.
Yes, we check regularly.
We do. So until next time,
Reader beware.
you're in for a scare. Just laying over her arm.
Right, and the parents come out of the closet.
No.
And at this point,
No, it's the end of the book. You're ruining the ending.